We are in the people business. We just happen to sell cars. Gosh, we said that for a long time around here, but what does that really mean? Well, this is our attempt to bring out some of what that means in real-life stories of the people that make up this special company. My name's Ty Bullard, and I have the honor and the privilege of leading Joe Bullard Automotive right here in Mobile, Alabama, that is truly trying to make a difference one person at a time. Really, Ty? Easy to say, but are you seriously trying to do this or just saying this? I get it, and frankly, I think it's a fair thought. But come journey with us as we open up with these people and truly get to explore their humanness that makes them difference makers. We all have a story. I do, you do, we all do, and I'm just excited to share some of these with you. Okay, enough with the intro. Let's jump in.
We are back. We have a special guest today, and we're here once again trying to really find out what's really inside the people of Joe Bullard, because we have this, we're all about I am Joe Bullard, this thing we've had the last few years, and I said, okay, what does that really mean? What does that really look like? And so I want to bring some people on and have some conversation to really kind of maybe make sure we get to see the insides of certain people. So our guest today is a very special person. And you may wonder why I had this guest today. And the reason I had this guy, because first off, I think there's some interesting stories there that we'll get into. But also, this person, this month, is their 20th work anniversary at our company. So Andrew Speight has been here 20 years this month.
So indeed.
That is certainly exciting, and want to talk a little bit about that, your journey, and thought we'd just have a little conversation around it. So, Andrew, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of ask you some questions. We'll roll through this, and just give me your feedback. Now, foul language is not acceptable.
That's my rule.
We understand that it may slip up, which is okay. Thank gosh for editing. But let's just have a conversation and see where it goes. So, Andrew, you've been here 20 years.
Yes,
Joe
sir.
Bullard Automotive.
Have indeed.
How does that hit you? Like, when you think about that, what does it mean? Like, what is it?
Well, first of all, it's a long time in anybody's terms. I guess that the thing about it that's most impactful is the change that's gone on over 20 years. I mean, we can't sit and discuss what it was like here 20 years ago because you weren't even here.
That's true, because I'm 17 or 18 years, I wasn't here.
You were down at Infinity.
I was in college.
Washing cars on your weekends
Yeah.
and stuff like that before you started learning the business yourself. So, one of the biggest things that I've seen over 20 years is your growth from a 17-year-old washing Infinities to the leader of a company that's a lot larger and more impactful in the community than it ever was or dreamed of being back then. So that's one of the things I've seen. Well, I mean, the truth is the truth,
We'll get to some more.
Some people think I live in your back pocket, but I don't. I'm actually your biggest critic.
Fair enough.
As you are mine.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
But it does, and that's another excellent thing about our relationship, is that, when we get in my office, we've had some conversations in your office, but they're not anywhere near as pleasant as the ones we have in mine.
They're more of those one-way conversations.
We just speak like we've known each other for a long time and have a lot of the same things in common.
Yeah.
Both fish, we both love this place and want it to succeed. We both do our jobs to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
So we have those things in common. We have an awful lot that isn't, and it's good to share the differences. You ask about my wife and the way she manages the dogs and all that other stuff, and I talk to you about having an account that's in the black. But anyway, no, the biggest impacts is seeing the changes that have come over the last 20 years through all adversity. And especially for me, seeing some of the things that a lot of people would have looked at and seen at as negatives. Like removing whole departments during a crisis, but sometimes you have to cut off the hand to save the rest of the body, and in a time when everybody was nervous about the car business, you've actually been one of those people that people would have called foolish, and that you've had acquisitions and you've grown the company, and that tells you something about you and this company's people, is that we just do our Joe Bullard thing.
Yeah. So let me ask you, 20 years, Did you ever get real close to leaving at any point?
Yesterday, and the day before. No. Yeah.
Tell us about, if you had a time, tell us about it.
There have been some very frustrating times. I mean, you know as well as everybody that works here knows that there's been times when not only the car business, but this company and situations in the world, whatever, have made it difficult sometimes to just think about getting through the rest of the day and having some modicum of success before we close the doors at the end of the day. And that grinds on you over time. And making changes that are maybe unpopular. That grinds on you also. And I think we all come to a period where, I'm not going to tell you there was a specific time, but there have been, periods of a couple of weeks when you think to yourself, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth going through what we have to go through? I mean, is it worth cutting off the hand to save the body, even mentally? And my wife and I have had the same conversation. I mean, my doctor told me one time, Andrew, you could lose weight like 40 pounds, and you need to quit smoking. But what'll kill you is stress.
I say that all the time.
And that's because I told you. Yeah, the first time you came in my office, said, "Have you got
I thought cigarettes kill you.
Chest?"
I thought cigarettes kill you. Like, no, they don't kill you. They hurt you, but stress will kill you.
Right. And don't get me wrong,
No,
overweight and smoking is probably not the recommended course, but stress will kill you. So my doctor says, so whatever's causing you stress, you need to stop doing it. Well, then how am I going to make a living? Because my job and everybody's job here, to different degrees at different levels, if you take it seriously enough, if you're not stressed out,
comes with a level of
you're
stress.
probably not doing your job.
Yeah, it comes with a certain level.
You have responsibilities. You're trusted and
Started as a salesperson.
I did. Jay Barbera was at Saturn.
God, I remember his name.
And I was
My dad would call the dealership and be like,
Sure.
can I speak to Jay Barbera? I just remember that.
And I was working at, another establishment whose name shall remain in my memories. And Jay called me and said, hey, I've noticed you've been salesman of the month 6 signs. In those days, we put it in the newspaper when you were salesman of the week.
I forgot about that. It was in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, yeah.
And he'd seen my picture. He said, hey, man, I'm working at a real easy joint to work at, and we're going to open this, and we're going to do that, and can we have a quiet lunch somewhere and talk about it? And I guess he made it sound like a nirvana. So
you said
I left there and came here.
Yeah.
Started at Saturn. We had 2 stores. Stan Williams was the GM of both. In October of 2003, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And was a salesperson, and I sold 17 cars in December, and you called me in the office, and I thought, I'm getting a pat on the back here. And he said, yeah, 17 cars last month, that's great. We're shutting the joint. You can come work.
That was the Mitsubishi store.
That was the Mitsubishi
there was a
store.
time where I remember, I'll never forget that. Mitsubishi at the time, this was in 2011, probably? Something like that, does that sound right? No, I had been a general manager. My dad told me, I went into his office and my dad said, all right, I need you to go be the general manager at Cadillac and Mitsubishi. They're on the same campus.
Right.
And they're right next to each other. So I need you to be a general manager. That was like in September, maybe August, somewhere like that, 3rd quarter. And I go down there and it took me about 3 months to kind of get my arms around, well, I didn't really know what I was doing in a lot of ways, but it was so obvious that this whole Mitsubishi road just wasn't working.
No.
Like, I mean, any business guy could look at this saying,
not at all.
There's no way out of this. Like this franchise, and at the time, Mitsubishi is a franchise. I mean, back in the mid-2000s, we used to sell 50, 60 new of those a month. But it had gone down substantially.
To like 3.
Bad. And so I just looked at it saying, we gotta do something here. And I'll never forget, I went to my dad and said, Dad, we got to get out of this business. Like, we got to end this. I don't see a way out of it. I said, so what do I do? And he said, I don't know, figure it out. So I called our rep. I called the Mitsubishi rep saying, hey, we don't want to be in this business anymore. And we ended up forfeiting the franchise back to Mitsubishi because it wasn't worth a sale at that time. It was just too long. But yeah, that day, that month, the month we shut it down, you sold 17 cars.
Yes, or 22. I didn't want to exaggerate, but it was...
So it was like, Andrew, great job on 17 cars. We're shutting the joint down. You have an option to come sell cars
That's
at Cadillac.
paraphrasing, yeah.
You have an option to come sell cars at Cadillac.
Sure.
And you said
what
yes.
I did. and that's what I did. And you know, sold my share, if not a few more.
And that had to be that. You know, I don't like I said I wasn't in. You know, I mean, that'd be a pretty difficult transition.
It was because in all dealerships, you know, the crew is the salespeople on the floor.
Yeah.
And they treat each other in particular ways. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And when you bring someone else in, they always see it as somebody who's coming to take a little piece of their pie.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you kind of have to come in, ease in and do things gently, which is not my forte. So, you know, it was...
Ease. So, speaking of not your forte, by now people have heard that you're not from, you know, originally from Grand Bay, Alabama. Just,
no.
You know, just guessing.
No,
Originally,
I'm
you're
from
not
Wiggins,
from
Mississippi. I went to England to learn to speak like this to impress women. Used to
So,
work
tell me where you were born.
I was born in Portsmouth, England.
Okay.
In
How close is that to London?
Please don't demean yourself with the ridiculous English questions. You know what? I'll tell you in a minute.
Portsmouth.
Portsmouth is a large naval
I'm
town.
saying that round. Portsmouth.
Portsmouth, yeah.
It's spelled mouth.
M-O-U-T-H, yeah. In up in New England, it's Portsmouth, but it's Portsmouth.
It's Portsmouth is the proper term. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about that part of your life because I think it's interesting, and I want to know a little more about kind of what you've taken from that part and jumped over this big thing called an ocean and had a career in a different country. I want to hear more about that. So when we come back, I want to talk about that. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back shortly.